Okay, are we ready over there? Do we have you? Okay. All right, we'll start settling down, folks. We'll, I'm going to call it a good day that we're getting together only a minute or two after 1. We're ready. We're just letting people settle down there. All right. Okay, we'll get going this afternoon. I just give me just a second. I intended when I started the meeting to introduce. I think we have had, but to introduce all our committee members. Marcus Wiedauer, to my far right, Chairman Clay Perkle, Representative Edna Jackson from Savannah, and to my left, Representative Park from over in Gwinnett County, and we had some other members that'll be back with us lately. And I was very remiss at the beginning at not thanking Brittany Valentine, our new staff person up with higher ed in 417 of the Capitol. She is putting these agendas together. So if anyone has a question about an agenda, interested in presenting something that would help us with the workforce development, please contact Brittany in our office. And Krista, raise your hand, is our support in legislative council, and Courtney is with House Research. I should, even with us being rushed in the morning, I should have recognized these three individuals for putting this together for us. I really appreciate it. As you know, we're part-time legislators, and we could not do it without the staff that we have at the Capitol, so I'm very thankful of that. With that, Mr. Etheridge is the director of J.E. Dunn Construction. He's joined by Zach Fields, the vice president of Construction Ready, and they're going to talk to us about the construction industry and the needs therein.
Greetings, everybody. Thanks for having us. Excited to talk with you today. I've had a chance to see the agenda and understand you guys are hearing from various industries, and I think just as a Georgian, super excited for the opportunities for our industry and our people in the state. So today we're going to talk to you about construction. Again, Will Etheridge, East Region Director of Self-Perform. That's our trade work that we do with our own people. And then I've also joined with Zach Fields, who's been doing good work in the K through 12 and workforce development for construction. I've been on the board over there, and I knew that these guys had to join me if we're going to talk about workforce today. So I'm going to start, tell you a little bit about how J.E. Dunn sees things, and then turn it over to Zach for the balance of the presentation. So J.E. Dunn, a 100-year-old private company based out of Kansas City. Large company, overall revenues in excess of $5 billion a year. That puts us number 17 top general contractors in the country. For Georgia, our Georgia revenue shared between Savannah and Atlanta. Those are our two operating centers here in the state. We've got $668 million in 22, and you see some growth there. In 23 at $985 million sold. So Georgia employee headcount, we have 400 employees in the state. That's across 13 different departments, 76 different job titles, includes our craft workforce, which is about 130 of those folks. We have open positions for 46 people right now in the professional side of our business, plus about 20 in the trades. So, we've got needs here, and with next year's growth, we're certainly going to need more. I know you've heard from some of these industries, but I want to mention that construction helps these industries do what they do. We build for them, they do what they do. So we're kind of a first step in what these people do, and we obviously all need people, but we build in the healthcare space, commercial space, industrial, aviation, K through 12 higher ed, data centers, and advanced industries, which are the chips that we're all familiar with having a shortage there. No chip manufacturers in this state, though, that we're dealing with. So we understand that part of the labor issue for construction is maybe construction industry owning some of what that looks like for the worker. So how do we hire and retain the best people and make it a career? So for us, it's developing training that matches a career path, job descriptions for us. And we're seeing our peers doing this as well. We have to make an attractive workforce to fight for the limited pool of workers that we know everyone else is fighting for. Luckily now, workers are getting full benefits with us and some of our peers. That includes ESOP participation in our company. Full company emails. They're invited to the Christmas party. Our pay range for craft workers right now for construction, this is commercial construction, our base labor is $17 an hour. Our trade foremen are making up to $35 an hour now, which is, plenty of money to take care of a family. So we're happy to report that. Obviously, increase in pay range is part of fighting for labor. So that does translate to increased construction cost, which just is part of the cost going up everywhere. So, we're going to do what we need to do to pay people to build our projects, and unfortunately, we're feeling that on the material side too. People are still buying, so as long as they're buying construction product, we're going to keep going. I did want to mention we're moving into a bit of a new era with construction, and don't think of the Diet Coke commercial that used to be out a few years ago with the people in the ditch on the jackhammers. We really have a lot of technology that's come into the space, so the worker we need is changing a bit. We're seeing that in the diversity of our workforce as well. So think prefabrication, where construction's moving a bit towards manufacturing, where we're building stuff in climate-controlled facilities, shipping it to the job site just in time. That's reducing our total head count. And then we've also got other technologies, drones and layout, automation. It's never going to do away with people in the construction industry. We just need people to help with these new robots and other devices that help us build these things. So, we want to make sure that the education system is promoting some of these technology advancements. I think it helps. And then lastly here, before I turn it over, just in map of where we are. You see our 2 Georgia offices there, but understand this is something we feel across the entire country. We've got dedicated resources that are in our company trying to solve this problem, working in the K through 12 space, trying to help mentor and promote. So we know the industry has got to do their part to help, and so I know this is an initial meeting for you guys, so just wanted to let you know that through AGC and Construction Ready, we're willing to talk to see what we can do from industry side to help. So I'm going to turn it over now to Zach. Enjoyed working with you over the years, and let you give them some data.
Thank you, Will. Thank you very much, Will. We at Construction Ready enjoy tremendous support from leading commercial contractors and folks across all sectors of the construction industry in the state of Georgia. We've been doing this since 1993. This workforce issue has been on the horizon of the industry for a long time, and now they are really, really feeling it and seeing it. And so we're proud to work on this 24/7 and enjoy the support of contractors like J.E. Dunn and AGC of Georgia. So here's the lay of the land briefly. This is just a dashboard you could reference for Georgia. So last year, the construction industry in Georgia accounted for almost 5% of the state's economy. So that's $29.5 billion in GDP. Traditionally, in years past, 50% of the GDP has also been wages. And so you could break that out and assume that almost $15 billion in wages are delivered to Georgia workers as on behalf of the construction industry, which is amazing. There are 19,000 firms in the state. And through organizational surveys across trade associations, 92% of contractors are having a moderate to difficult time hiring skilled workers. And so that's a major issue. It's a bottleneck on the growth of every other industry is the skilled workers that we have or don't have in our state. On top of increased demand that we're seeing, and we'll show this slide here in a moment, we have a shortage. Our current workforce is 203,900 in Georgia. Generally, that's going to fluctuate around the 200,000 mark. Might be 194, might be 205, but it ranges in that range. So 203,900 is about right. However, what we're seeing is more and more workers are retiring from the industry. So we have a compounding issue where you have increased demand and growth, which is good for our state. However, at the same time, you have an aging workforce. COVID has exacerbated this with something we call the silver tsunami, in which people are retiring earlier. And so a problem we already had where 40% of our workforce was retiring by 2031, which is getting closer and closer. that seems to be accelerating. So that's 80,000 we need to replace just to maintain baseline and not to accounting for the increased demand right here. One note on that, okay, so you may say, okay, well, 2031, we got a little bit of time. It's going to be really fast, but we have a dynamic here where that's a lot of industry knowledge and know-how that's leaving the industry, that will be going out the door. And so we need the younger worker alongside the older worker for a period of time to be able to download that information. What that means, though, for us is incredible opportunity for the young people we serve. Young people are being fast-tracked in leadership positions in the construction industry for this very reason. If they've got the initiative and the drive, they will succeed in our industry. We've got some great stories. I can share it another date. Right now, what's the goal line? We're short 28,000 annually when you account for the demand and the retirements. And so we use a program called the Construction Labor Market Analyzer that analyzes jobs that are already on the books and bidding platforms for contractors that estimate the labor needs for those projects. By 2026, quick turnaround, we need 307,500 workers to meet the demand. And again, we're at 203,900 with more and more leaving every year. So if we can find 28,000 a year, we'll be on track for the workforce needs of the industry. That's a lot of opportunity for the young people. Here it is. Here's the demand by trade. I know that one area of interest is what is the demand by trade? What are the key areas? Craft laborers, which we'll mention, that's the very first entry-level position into our industry. We have an expression in the construction industry that we call it shovel to CEO. In other words, there's great upward mobility in our industry where you're a craft laborer, you're learning how job sites run, how they operate. It's vital experience, and you can keep climbing from there. You can see in the top, carpenter, mason, heavy equipment operator, electrician, iron worker. A source of many of these programs or these jobs you can see on the following slide. It's going to be a funnel on what our K-12 really looks like. In other words, there's 1.7 million young people in our K-12 system right now. There's 500 plus thousand at the high school level. There's 450 plus at the middle school level. They are there. When it comes to access and opportunity, we feel it's vitally important that they align between levels, elementary through high school, and that we build a better bridge coming out of the K-12 system. The state right now, as far as the baseline of programs that we serve that are, formally in the architecture and construction career cluster with the Georgia Department of Education, that those programs cover carpentry, masonry, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, sheet metal, welding, and drafting. So and with an incredible addition this last year of heavy equipment operations. And so Georgia is leading the country in heavy equipment operations with a lot of support that came from the legislature this last year to launch heavy equipment operator locations in high schools across the state. And Caterpillar's behind that, a lot of support, Georgia Highway Contractors Association. But that's absolutely groundbreaking. So it's fantastic to see the responsiveness of our state leadership in that critical area. And everything we build in the industry comes out of the ground. And so that's a key area. There were some questions or interest in credentials. What credentials of value are there in our industry? And primarily, I would say, as an industry, we care most about the safety credentials of workers coming into our industry. We do a decent job training once they get here. J.E. Dunn has an internal training program. Most contractors do. And so safety credentials are vital. But what they also do is they allow us to back up the connection point, and that's a key recommendation and focus, is that right now, traditionally, with a worker only being able to enter our industry at 18, traditionally, we are losing out on so many that graduate high school or don't graduate high school, unfortunately, and they fall through the cracks. And so most programming is spent a lot of energy trying to track those people down and finding. We find a sliver of them. We have a very successful program called Construction Ready Pre-Apprenticeship that does that. However, we need a more proactive solution. And to us, that proactive solution is building a better bridge out of K-12. We'll discuss some of this. But OSHA 10 is by far the most recognized in the industry. It's not extremely difficult to obtain. We believe in it so much, our organization actually sponsored 3,000 of these licenses for high school students across Georgia this past school year. 2,400 were earned by high school students as their very first solid industry credential that they can build on. You could go a little farther with an OSHA 30-hour certification. NCCR NCCR core is valuable. You can see the modules that hits. NCCR is National Center for Construction Education and Research. We work closely with them. These are all industry-driven and aligned credentials. And again, many are being implemented in these trade programs, and we actually have data on that for anyone interested in a deeper dive of what is being earned in the K-12 level. However, I need to say this: credentials aren't the answer to everything that's facing us. Having people that will show up on time, work hard, and get along with other people are the key things. You're going to hear it from every other industry, and you probably have heard it from every other industry. So we need to obviously focus on that, and that's the main thing. So we have this lost decade. And we see this all the way across the state. We actually see this nationally, but the average age in a post-secondary trades-related program is 26 to 28 years old. That means that someone floated around after their high school experience, and they may have needed to. They may have needed some life experiences. However, they're not showing back up till training until 10 years later, or they're not completing their training until 10 years later. And what that is, that's the lost decade. That's lost earnings in the industry. That's lost experience. And it takes about 10 years for someone that's very good to become a project superintendent in our industry. So it's about a 10-year training window. If we can get 18-year-olds coming into our industry, and they can be superintendents by 28 and 30, and the superintendent's job is the six-figure job in our industry, and it's a field job. In other words, you don't need a college degree to do it. You need to know how to run a job site, and that's a critical component and vital for our industry. So we mentioned the retirement. We love K-12. We invest in it heavily, programs all the way down to second grade, where students are building for a decade before they graduate. Kudos to the state for bringing CTAE all the way down to the kindergarten now. That's absolutely amazing. You'll see some construction standards coming out shortly for that. But we acknowledge, and I, as a former high school teacher for 9.5 years, we know how difficult it is to get a high school student to graduation. The capacity of K-12 is getting students to graduation, but not beyond it, unfortunately. So there's some things that can be done within the system to bridge the gap a little bit better. We've got some pilots that have shown success on that I would love to share with you at a later date. However, we also have to do a better job of reaching in. But we've got to build that bridge out of K-12 so these young people are not falling through the cracks. And that's vital in our work. It's a proactive solution. Since we're talking construction, we call that fixing the foundation. And we've got to do that. So you'll see our recommendations go in that direction. Here's what the funnel looks like in Georgia right now, at least for our industry. And again, we have frontline data on this across nearly 200 trades programs with almost 20,000 students in them. And you'll see that annually, it's around 100,000 high school students actually graduate. And so people think K-12 is a long-term play, long-term runway. It is. You're getting the foundation right. However, it's producing 18-year-olds every single year that are doing something. Right now, we see around 900 students are coming out of trades programs, and that's that orange sliver right there. That's taking a next step to our industry. However, you'll see industry focuses now not only on improving that number, but also expanding into the academic space more. So a young person that might not have a trades program at their class can at least do the applied STEM and the tangible application of STEM or math or science that relates to our industry and have an opportunity to take a next step. So you'll see us really pushing into that academic space a bit to make sure that students know what their options are, and that's very important. They know what their options are. The other thing that's very important, we call it a vertically aligned model, is bringing these programs to the elementary and middle school space. In high school, you have to choose to take a trades class. So if you didn't already have someone in your family in the trades or a friend that was successful in the trades, it's not on your radar. You don't even know about it. It's a missed opportunity for so many young people. However, where we have pilots stood up for verticals, one's in Roswell, Georgia. It's groundbreaking. 100% of students at the middle school that feeds the high school program take construction. It's a connections class, all right, at both middle schools. You go one level below that, there's 5 or 6 elementary schools in the community. 100% of students at the elementary school that feeds the middle school takes construction as a specials class. Now they're getting the real life application of what they're learning in their academics in a hands-on, tangible way, and students are leading in that class that aren't leading in other classes. And early academic success is vital for our pipeline. We're seeing students change the way they look at learning. So this is our funnel. We're paying attention to it. We don't want to force something on a young person that isn't a good fit. Thank you to the leadership of the Metro Chamber a few years back in bringing U Science in and doing a Metro Atlanta talent study that's a good enough sample size to be an indicator of what it looks like elsewhere. We're seeing that 20% of students here, you can see, are a high fit for the skilled trades. So 1 out of every 5 students out of the 1.7 million that are in K-12, out of the 100,000 that are graduating every single year are high fit for the trades. But we don't all only market our industry as, are you a tradesperson or not? We actually, our industry is for everyone, because there's a technology career in the industry. There's a project management career in the industry. There's architecture, drawing, and engineering. There's entrepreneurship in our industry. And so if we look at this next slide, 76% of students are a strong fit for engineering and construction administration. We need everybody to pull off these projects. Our aging workforce is our aging workforce, whether it's field level personnel or admin on the back end. So these are real opportunities, and any path, even directly entering the industry, can get you here. And so if we combine this, there's a home in construction for 96% of Georgia's students here, and this is real life data. I crosswalk this because of the groundbreaking, ingenuity of the Georgia programs. Other states are wanting this vertical model where students are building from kindergarten through high school. And so we had to crosswalk this with other states, and against 5 other states, these numbers hold up nearly identically. And so we can put a lot of faith in this. And if you're not already familiar with U-Science, it's a very good program. Again, this was a Metro Atlanta talent report, but this is real data. So, and this is our final slide. We can take some questions, but we know Georgia has the talent. We just saw it in the U-Science aptitudes, and we see it when we go real life in person and watch these young people build for the first time. We watch them drive their very first nail, build their first project, the self-confidence they need as an early learner, and it's very scalable and portable throughout different communities. Believe it or not, a vertical now has been established in Savannah. So Savannah, Georgia, underneath Windsor Forest High School at Georgetown, K-8 is starting this beneath an existing program. Berkmar High School in Gwinnett County is starting this at their middle school level. Roswell High School has it at both middle schools and an elementary school, and clubs at the other 5 elementary schools. Those are about to flip, and we're able to fund 3 or 4 more of these locations throughout the state. And so this is about to hit, but we call it vertical alignment, cradle to career, Georgia Chamber priority, and we fully agree with that. But we have to back up our connection points. For us, much of that is being able to do industry connections at 16 and 17 years of age, and that's achieved legally through work-based learning and youth apprenticeship. That's a huge focus of ours. We're working on our industry to understand that, but any state help there to make that clearer or to lift up successes would be fantastic. The leading companies in our industry are doing it. And listen, we've got students that graduated in 2019 that are now making $80,000 as foremen on construction crews. We've got multiple examples across the state, and they backed up their connection point, and they tried 2 or 3 different employers at 16 and 17, and they made an informed decision at 18 when they were graduating. That's all we can ask. And again, a program we won't get into today, but I want you to understand that it exists, and we should talk about it more, is introducing the next generation to the Skilled Trades Initiative. This was supported by Georgia's construction industry, led by our team at Construction Ready, and supported by the Home Depot Foundation, the Bernie Marcus Foundation, and the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation. So it was a intersection of public and private support that really said, okay, we have this workforce need in the industry, but we also have people that need real opportunity. What does that look like if we ran a structured workforce program? So we've got 3 years of data on this. Home Depot and the Marcus Foundation just re-upped their support for this to do a round 2 of this, and we're entering that work, but it aligns very well with workforce in our industry and K-12 outcomes. So again, we've got frontline data we should dive into on this at a later date, and much of this is done through teachers and supported teachers. So that's what we focus on and do. But this put 3,500 young people into our industry over the last 3 years. That's significant, and it's real data. So we'll take questions. Stop there, and thank you for a good listen.
Okay, you do have a couple of questions. I'm going to go in the order they came up. Chairman Perkle.
Zach, thank you for your presentation. You began your presentation in a manner in which I found slightly troubling, that you were in education for 9.5 years and now you're not.
Yes.
I think of all the kids that, that's what we need right there. But you also mentioned about soft skills. Mm-hmm. And that's not the first time today we've heard it. Yep. Probably will not be the last. And so I find it somewhat disconcerting. I cannot believe that the DNA in our kids now are such that through their adolescent, through their growing years, that either they are lazier or dumber or just not thinking of others beyond themselves. We have never, it has not historically been the place of education to instill the value of hard work, to show up and work and make sure that you are a good steward of the person that is employing you, that you show up on time and not in slippers, that you show up dressed and ready to work and do a good day's work for a good day's pay. That was never part of the education system. We didn't have to be taught that. Chuck and I are old enough
Yes,
that this is not something, as I talk to our superintendents, through our principals, the technical colleges, these are things they are now having to instill in the kids and the young adults that are going into the workforce. It is somewhat disconcerting to me. You have a unique perspective, having worked in the education field, and now you are hiring the products
Yes.
of the education field.
Yes.
Can you tell me where we messed up?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. It's not an easy answer, but it boils down that we've got them in a K-12 bubble. We've got students in a bubble, and we have to do much more to get them out of that bubble. And so you can do that with industry in the classroom, but it's much better with the classroom going out to industry. Students have to see the real world. I talked to Barbara Wall about this, Dr. Barbara Wall, about this a good bit, and I don't know if you know it, but she got her doctorate in work ethic, believe it or not, and that's what we're getting down to. And the lead indicator that the correlation that she found in her research, and we see the results of this, is actually work-based learning. It's that a student, while they are still in high school, got out into the real world and then came back to high school. Okay, and I've got 4 kiddos, again, front lines for 9.5 years there, and what we see is the biggest influence on young people are their peers. Okay, I'm a grown-up with a PowerPoint when I go in there. Their peers are their biggest influence, and we see a positive correlation and a multiplier that's really good for workforce out of work-based learning and youth employment. In other words, young people leave the school for half a day. They do exciting work in the industry. They might be on a sky rise in Atlanta building it or somewhere else across the state, but they come back with a story and something different than the burger flippers and the ice cream scoopers are doing. And it's more exciting. They have more money in their pocket. What we see the following year is that one student turns to 5, that 5 turns into 10. We're seeing this where and students move in groups. So we're seeing students moving in groups now to make these career decisions, to go into an apprenticeship program, to do this program. And so we think getting students out of the school building is key. And maybe we do it with career visits and not just college visits.
Yeah, if I may. I'm just trying to keep us on time because really your presentation kind of morphed into what we want to do in meeting 2. And I want to thank you for doing it. We hadn't intended to do that, but it actually it is really good because it ought to be the teaser effect for, we're hearing a lot of good information today, but, with what we're hearing today and what he's offering with some innovative things that are going on, and then some things that we're doing in the university system is where the rubber, if you will, is going to meet the road. So if we could work on, for the rest of the questions, we got a few minutes to talk, not about what the solution, may be. That was a great line of question, and I'll finish that. The only thing I would add to yours is you said they're influenced by their peers.
Yes, sir.
Their peers think that life works right here.
That's right.
They look on here, and then somebody's making, there's one person out of 300 million that's making a living being a TikTok influencer. So they want to sit around at home and be a TikTok influencer. I'm several semesters shy of a child psychology degree. But when you talk, I'm just going to be with what I think is real. They are influenced by their peers, and they look on there and say, if somebody did it, I can do it. So I am enthused by Chairman Perkle's line of question, but if we could, let's talk about what you find. We had 3 more questions. Is that okay, Chairman Perkle? Yes, sir. Then you'll come back and join us for meeting number 2, I bet. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, Representative Park.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question may also be related to the solution, so I'm happy to hold that off. But do you want me to go ahead and ask the question?
Maybe ask him so he can take it under advisement and bring it back.
Yep, sure.
So I thought it was a great example with Maxwell School of Technology being in Gwinnett County in my district that allows for high school students to gain some real-world skills. Could you speak to some of the barriers that may exist that inhibit students from actually participating in those sorts of programs, or is it more a limitation of those sorts of high schools, or is it something related to transportation, or some of those other sorts of issues?
Yes, sir. Great question. Thank you. And this can be a quick answer. Transportation is a big one. Okay, so we work to find job locations that are very close to the school, or many of our builders build K-12 facilities. And so that's a very good opportunity to get young people on a project near their home. The other one is scheduling. So right now, there's the dominant or default is to do afternoon work-based learning where students leave school at lunchtime and work in our industry. Our industry much prefers students be there at 7:30 a.m. and then go to lunch. So we needed to do the first half of the day instead of the latter half of the day. That I think that can be achieved. The other one is students, and I ran into this. So I was a high school trades teacher for my last 3 years, and I was special education, government, economics for my first 7. And what I found was I had students that were fantastic in my trades program, and they couldn't come back for year 2 or 3. They wanted to. They didn't have room in their schedule because they were making up an academic course that they did not pass in 9th grade. And so that's real key. A lot of students that would thrive to continue these programs and to be connected are having to get pulled out of these programs to make up some other academics. Now, I know that our state's, gotten more flexible in high school diplomas. We've started to move, I think, in the right direction on some solutions there, but we could probably unpack that a little more. Thank you.
Thank you all for your presentation. Great. I heard you mention construction in 2nd grade.
Yes.
I know you mentioned there was a bill that was passed, I think. Did I hear you say that? Some legislation relating to
yes.
that?
Well,
and I'm just not familiar with
yep.
it, so can you educate me on this particular
Absolutely.
piece of
So
legislation?
for the last 3 years, we ran a pilot program at Mountain Park Elementary School to see what can young people really do. They can all do more than we think they can, by the way. And it was wildly successful, age appropriate. And it was the precursor to bringing CTAE down to the elementary school. And the Georgia Department of Education announced probably a month ago that they are now bringing CTAE to the elementary school space. And we've advocated that for a long time. Often by the time a kid hits high school, it's just too late. They've made up their mind about learning or what they're going to do without making an informed decision. And so we have completed our 2nd year of having 2nd graders through 5th graders. Now it's 600 students that are taking construction and loving it. And we've got videos. We do tours of it. We'd like to invite you on a tour of that location. And now we have submitted to the Georgia Department of Education state standards for K through 5 trades classes. And they will go out for public review shortly and will likely be adopted and ready for next school year. What that also does, that's a key barrier, is we believe that it will open up FTE dollars to pay for those positions. Right now, it's been very difficult for schools to hire a construction teacher when their enrollment had dropped and they're trying to keep their math teacher on board. So, yeah.
And follow-up question, thank you for that information. You mentioned during lunch that Dooley County, which is in my district, has a construction
Yes.
program. Are there any other schools below Macon that are participating in a construction program?
Yes, we have 200 plus trades programs in our state in the K-12 space, but they're really all over. Some leaders, I'd say below Macon or in the vicinity, the East and West Lawrence programs are very strong. The Bainbridge High School program is very strong. There's a handful I could rattle off. There's a lot, but I would love to share. I can share with you our program list, and
Sure.
I can share with all of you the program list so you can see what's in your area. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Well, all right, did you have a question?
I like the programs. I was wondering if you have any in the Savannah area, Chatham County
Yes, ma'am.
area, because you have a lot of work that you're doing in the Savannah,
Yes.
in Chatham County.
That's right.
Can you tell me where it is in Chatham County?
Yes, ma'am. We're building one of these verticals, one of our solutions right now underneath Windsor Forest High School in
Okay.
Savannah. Georgetown K-8 has started programming last year, and we're able to get them partially funded with state dollars with a state grant last year. And so they're getting their equipment in now, they're getting up and running. And because they're K-8, that would give a full vertical right there. So great school counselor and STEM specialists there that have helped us get those programs in. And then also within the area, you've got 2 welding programs in Savannah as well. Woodville Tompkins and one more. I need to slip my mind. Yeah.
Well, thanks, gentlemen. That concludes the question. I'll just say with your Mountain Park Elementary, you can get my friend Io Richardson, and we'll go out there and see her.
Let's go.
She is a wonderful lady and a
Wonderful.
principal at Mountain Park. I think she may be new there this year.
She's brand new,
Yeah, I
yes,
think she's brand new over
absolutely.
there this year.
Yeah,
But
we'd love to
I
do
know
it.
she's an awesome professional, and so love to get out there to that school. And
I'll share
do
some
that.
tour dates with
Yeah,
you.
thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move right along here. We're a minute or two late, but we're doing well. Nancy Wright Whiteley, the Senior Director of Talent Acquisition at Veritative.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I'm not gonna need it.
You don't need that one. Okay.
Nope.
I'm good.
I'm just gonna
gonna wing it.
talk. I'm just gonna talk. First of all, I would probably say to you, if you've never watched a child of about 3 or 4 put together a Legos, I mean, they have the ability to be construction, you know, they think that way these days. So, and one other point, Representative Bentley, my dad is from Butler, Georgia, or was from Butler, Georgia. So I spent a lot of my childhood down there. So thank you for having me today. I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing. As Representative Martin, Chairman Martin said, I am the Director of Talent Acquisition for Veritative. Veritative is a Fortune 500 leading packaging and facility solutions company based in Sandy Springs. We have about 6,000 employees across North America. We've got over 100 facilities. Along with our headquarters in Sandy Springs, we have 2 large distribution centers and a packaging design center in Georgia. We were deemed one of those essential companies during the pandemic, and so we have never stopped. And it has created a lot of challenges for the workforce and for my team to continue to do that. I probably don't have to remind you or tell you about the gap between our job openings and our unemployed. It's a gap of about 4.6 million. And just in the last month, we had 4.2 million people quit their jobs. So the numbers keep rising for a myriad of reasons, I guess you would say. There's one other challenge that I want to bring to your attention that I don't think anybody's really thinking about at this point. But between the baby boomers and the millennials, those are the 2 largest generations we have. Sandwiched in between that was Generation X. And if you take the smaller Generation X and the smaller generations after that, we are going to be in a severe different environment, if you will, just based on birth rates as we continue to go. So that's going to create a lot more challenges for us from a workforce talent recruiting perspective that I don't think anybody's really thinking about at this point. So from the standpoint of Veritative and some of the things that we've been through over the last couple of years, we hire a lot of CDL drivers and to meet the requirements of the DOT and our insurance requirements, as you can well imagine, has been a challenge. Recruiting for the hourly workforce, I think you heard a lot about that, is always a challenge, but we've been playing the unemployment game. We have people who will apply for a job because they have to be actively seeking employment, and they'll apply, they'll take the job, and then they won't show up. Or they'll apply, and then you call them for an interview, and they won't show up. The ghosting thing starts, and those are some of the terms that we're all kind of used to. Moving into the professional sector, we also recruit a lot of finance and accounting type individuals. And with all of the new comp and benefits that the Big Four are offering across the country, that's harder to sell on our end. You also take into consideration that in 2022 and 2023, the average pay merit increase is going to be well over 4%. I will say that probably will be something that our company can probably manage, but as a former small business owner, I can tell you that when you start looking at merit increases over 4% or edging up closer to 5%, it's going to be really, really hard for small businesses to hang on to their talent because they just can't compete. So those are some really challenging things for us. The other thing is working through the pandemic with our pre-employment screening. We had a real challenge with court closures. We had a challenge with getting drug screens done because the clinics were so overrun. Those were really big. And once you start delaying getting somebody to start their job, you lose them. So that's one of those things. And then, of course, we have what we would consider the new competition. And you look at me and you say, there's a lot of competition out there. What could possibly be even worse? Well, in the past, and again, I've been in recruiting and staffing over 40 years. Yeah, I'm kind of up there with, what we were talking about earlier, those older guys over there. But I've been doing this for that long. I know, I was pointing at him, just saying. I was just pointing at him. But the new competition is, before, I was recruiting for somebody that I was only competing with the company down the street or the company across town. Right now, I'm competing with every single company across America, maybe even further than that, because now that virtual and hybrid work is available, the workforce is going to continue to decline based on the fact that they can take a job that's based in Colorado or in Utah or wherever. So now the competition for the talent is going to be even harder to find. So those are some of the challenges that we've had, and there's probably a myriad of others, but I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the stuff that we've done at Veritative to try and overcome them. We just recently, about probably 4 or 5 months ago, we eliminated pre-employment drug screens for everything non-DOT. The reason we did that was, again, because it was harder to get into and get them done. But more importantly, we were struggling with, we had gotten to the point where we almost needed a whole attorney to watch all the new laws based on recreational and medical marijuana. Those are running rampant all across the United States, but more importantly, all the states are implementing laws that have to do with how you can make a hiring decision based on that. And then, of course, there's the insurance that you have to say, well, if I know somebody is on a medical marijuana card, that's great. But if they're going to be a salesperson and they're going to drive a car, now you know that. So there's so much to be said for all of that, but we just finally just eliminated it. It has created some back-end problems for us because now we have to spend an awful lot of time training and developing our managers to recognize reasonable suspicion and be aware of that so that we can, control our workplace. We also no longer verify previous employment, and the reason for that is because over the last several years, you have all of these people who have gaps in their employment because their companies either shut down or they changed jobs, or perhaps they quit a job for a myriad of reasons. But it's delaying the hiring process, and if you delay it, you could potentially lose the one candidate that you have that meets those requirements. We also have eliminated the requirement for a college degree. And we have done that for all positions except for things like accountants and engineers, those that require some type of certification. But it allows us to go and look at somebody who has the skills and the experience that's needed for the job, as opposed to saying that just because you have a 4-year degree in potentially geology or psychology, what makes that relative to what we're hiring you for. So let's look at your experience and your skill set. And I can tell you that based on my years and experience, again, I remember when we implemented the every candidate, every applicant had to have a college degree, and that was to narrow down the applicant pool if we only had those days back, right? So anyway, but to stay competitive, we have also implemented hiring bonuses, just like a lot of companies have. That has backfired on us in many cases because the employment base, they've learned to work the system. They take the hiring bonus here. They might take the first payout or the second payout or even all the payout, whatever that looks like in all the different situations, and then they quit and go to the next company offering it. It's at first it was working really great, and then all of a sudden you realize they're learning to play the system. So that's created some problems for us. One thing that we have done is create a retirement notice bonus. We hire hundreds of CDL drivers to drive our company fleet of trucks, but the average age of that environment is about 55 and older. So they were retiring early. I think you mentioned retiring early. So we said, hey, if you're going to retire early, if you'll just give us a little bit more notice so that we can get somebody in there trained. The good news is that our drivers are they're local, so they work Monday through Friday. They go home every night. They have great trucks, but it's still a challenge. You kind of weigh the odds of do you reduce the requirements at the DOT level? Do you reduce the age range of a driver? No, because, hey, we're all on the roads. We know what that looks like. We know how that operates. So we understand, but it's still hard because you don't have a lot of people that want to be a truck driver anymore. So that group of people is aging out. So that is going to be a challenge. And as many of us are having packages delivered to our homes, be wary of that. We do employ a lot of equipment service techs. These are the individuals who, when we put a piece of equipment from one of our vendors into a distribution center or into one of our customers back into their warehouse, we actually have the tech that works on the equipment. So we have started partnering. Again, that is a very aging workforce. They used to be just wrench turners. Now, again, this group mentioned it as well. Technology is involved in it now. So we have partnered with for a new program right now with the technical colleges across the U.S., and we have created a program to help train students out of the technical colleges to perform this role. The biggest challenge with that is that it is you have to deal with the customer, and 9 times out of 10, if the equipment is down, the customer is upset. So the younger talent is not as versed in how to handle an upset customer. And so you've got a lot of that back to, those skills that we don't teach, those soft skills, exactly. But we are doing that. It is an investment that we are making. You're probably sitting here wondering about our internal process and why aren't we dealing with a lot more applicants that apply for jobs? They're not applying, guys. We are spending 99% of our time in talent acquisition actually going out and selling passive candidates on Veritative. We actually are out there selling ourselves on trying to pull them away. And I can tell you, once you talk to a candidate and help him understand how valuable he is, then he's going to start playing you against other companies because you've just told him, hey, you can make more money. So we get into a bidding war on that. We have just in the last month created a position on our team that is a workforce development specialist. And this person is going to be concentrating on developing the relationships with the non-traditional workforces, if you will. The returners, those people who have not traditionally been in the workforce, those returning parents who have been raising kids, those retirees who retired early, and now based on the fact that a recession is imminent, then they might need to go back to work, even just part-time. Those military spouses, those disabled individuals that have had a hard time getting into the workforce, we're going to be working on programs for those. We are also going to be working with military spouses and military. Just 2 weeks ago, I met with the gentleman at the University of Georgia who controls the program for the veterans that are returning for their education. And what we have found is that a lot of military veterans have incredible experience, but what they call it in the military and what we call it in corporate America, they don't jive. So we've got to figure out how to help them with their resume or help corporate America understand what the military jargon is so that we can match that talent. I am a chair of the Emeritus Board for the the Terry College of Business at Georgia, and that is our sole goal, is to help this group of students at the University of Georgia try and figure out how to get back into the workforce with the skills and talent they have. So I think that's a program that could go a lot further. And then, of course, all of this creates challenges for us internally. We've put a lot of pressure on our training and development group inside to help us train hiring managers on how to, one, interview with one available candidate, making sure that they will fit and match our workforce and be a good candidate, because they're so used to comparing 2 and 3 and 4 candidates. I might not have but one, and if you don't choose this one and you're waiting on 2 or 3 more, you're going to lose this one, so you better choose them. We are also trying to work on how we can educate our managers on these returners. We have experienced with our intern program, these college kids, again, talking about that, college kids coming out of school, they don't know how to schedule a Zoom meeting. They don't know how to set up an invite to schedule 25 people for a meeting. They're not used to those types of things. They have all kinds of technology, but they're not used to the very basics in the workforce. And if you're going to bring people back into the workforce that haven't been in the workforce, you're going to have a lot of those extra skills that your hiring managers are not used to doing. So again, one of the other things we did was for warehouse workers, we recruited out of Puerto Rico. We had to provide housing and travel, cars and everything, but we did recruit out of Puerto Rico because of the devastation down there, and they are American citizens. So we tried to bring them into our facilities. So we've done an awful lot of different things. We have worked on our recognition internally so that we can reduce our turnover as much as possible, but it's still going to be a challenge. So I've told you a little bit about what we do, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I appreciate the time today.
Thank you. Questions for Nancy? I have one. We'll give them time to think. So the places you're at with your facility, what are you missing in Sandy Springs now? Do you have openings in Sandy Springs?
So our Sandy Springs is our corporate headquarters. So that is going to be your accounting, finance, your legal.
So you have some positions in the,
Absolutely.
if you will, in the professional areas.
Absolutely.
Then also
Our
and so-
distribution centers and our have warehouse, supply chain logistics, drivers, and then we have a packaging design center in Chamblee, and these are the folks who actually design the packaging.
Yeah. So my question, I mean, we know if you have the accounting, finance, there may be certain professional degrees that go with that.
Mm-hmm.
But going to your distribution facilities, your warehouse. The gentleman, I don't know if you saw this online, I'm not sure you were here earlier for it, but the gentleman from Cte talked about at one point he had 450 jobs. He's down to a little over 100. The question was asked, what do you have to do to that? He's like, you need to have a high school degree or a GED and be ready to come to the office, come to work. Is that essentially some of your warehouse workers? I mean, I suspect some of them would probably need to be trained to drive, the various vehicles around, forklifts, et cetera, to ride. But is that what basically you would hire some people that need a work ethic and here they come.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm not verifying education at all. So,
So
can
maybe,
they? Yeah. So
maybe
if,
not even a GED or a
Yeah,
high school
not
degree.
even.
We
just want somebody who can learn, and we would love to have more training on forklifts and cherry
Sure.
pickers and all of that. So, yes.
So I mean, just my question about this is, we heard earlier today, I think that, didn't we hear from somebody that there were 100 and some thousand that unemployed folks that we were
155,000 unemployed, 468,000 posted.
posting, job.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question is DOL, can they share information with you?
Can
The Department of Labor, if they have somebody in your
Yes.
geocode that's unemployed, that,
Absolutely.
hey, I mean, because if you're looking for a job and you,
Yes.
and so you do that, or you have a way to work with them.
And I mean, based on the fact that we're a federal contractor, we're required to post all of our jobs at the state job boards, on the
Sure.
state job boards, and with the Department of Labor. So they have every opportunity to see all of our jobs. They're posted on the DOL, and if there were people actually working those at the DOL that could send them to us, that would be awesome. I think
Okay.
I shouldn't, I'll refrain from saying that.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm just, I know when you're, little research is, you have to be looking for a job to, you have to try to find a job.
You have to be
if
actively seeking
yeah.
employment, yes.
Okay, we're not gonna get to that. We're not
Yeah.
gonna get the
You-
answer
you
to that
can't-
question
yeah,
today,
you
but
can't
yeah,
solve that
but
one.
We won't do that one today. Chairman, is it 10-23? Is it? Oh, I'm sorry, it's Representative Jackson.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I
Mr.
don't have the
Chairman.
numbers with the chair.
That's all right. As I've listened here today, I've heard so many people come up and talk about the same thing, the soft skills. And now that you're saying that the Department of Labor is involved with some of this, maybe it should start there. And Mr. Chairman, I know you said we will be talking about solutions during the next session, but maybe what companies need to do is see if some of the people are willing to do a part-time in order to see if they're ready for those jobs, and if they have the job skills or they have learned the job skills. There are a lot of young people that are out there that are without employment, but sometimes you have to take the job to the people through community centers and places like that, or get others involved to reach out to our young people. Because with so many jobs being available, we should not be hearing companies coming up and saying that people don't want to work. And that's what it boils down to, and that's really what it is.
I mean, you could add to that they don't want to work. They don't want to work at the wage that their skills allow them to work.
Exactly.
So they're feeling a little more privileged. And so, like when I got out of college, it was you go get a job, and I don't care what they're paying you. You go get a job.
Exactly.
You're off my payroll now. But I think that there is a little more privilege at this point, and you have to start somewhere. But with your skills, you don't have the skills to start at this wage.
Exactly.
So that's a challenge.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back, and this is my horse for the day. It's this.
Yeah, it
Because
is.
they look at somebody else that was just like them or graduated that has that, and they want to know why I mean,
Well,
we all have them, and I don't want to say that little device it's not that. It's the social construct that goes with it. All you see on there is the good things that happen in somebody's life. You don't see them when they finish their hard shift at work. Right?
Yeah.
So, but thank you for the information, and I'm going to invite you the same as some of the others is we're hearing what where you don't have, and we're going to lean on you and the other presenters, as well as the university system, TCSG, our private colleges, to talk about what we do now. Representative Park, you mentioned the Maxwell School over in Gwinnett. They're on our list to talk at meeting too, along with the City of Marietta schools if they'll take us up on the offer.
and our
some others.
facilities are in Norcross. There's our huge distribution centers in Norcross, so in Gwinnett.
So we're going to invite you to help us talk, about the solutions as we get to there. I see no further questions, and you got us right back on time, so we thank you.
Absolutely.
And
Go Dogs.
could you remind? Yeah, we'll see you're right on top of that. I was going to remind me how that national championship game came out for the.
33-18, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'm fairly certain she was there. I know
I
her.
was at both.
I know
was at
her.
both.
I know her to be a Georgia fan. So there you go. We're moving right on. Mr. Nowicki, Public Affairs and Community Investment for Gulfstream Aerospace. He has offered to provide everybody a ride, a flight from here to the Georgia-Oregon game.
I wish that's how I could say I got from Savannah to here yesterday.
You could
but
do that because we're just down the street, and you wouldn't have to get an aircraft to do that. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your presentation.
No, thank you, Chairman. And I will give a shout out. It's good to see one of our, as we're a Savannah industry, we can see one of our great Savannah representatives here today as well. But it's an honor to be here today, and thank you for the invitation to be here. And I love talking about Gulfstream, and I love talking about workforce and what we're doing. And just like everyone else here in the room today, we're all working towards a similar challenge right now. But I think I'm excited that we're able to participate in dialogues like this to help how can we collectively work together to help address these issues. I want to briefly talk to you a little bit about Gulfstream for just a moment, then go straight into, our workforce piece. So Gulfstream, we've been headquartered in Savannah since the 1967. Started out with 100 employees. Today we're over almost 16,000 employees worldwide, 11,000 of those here in Georgia. Most of those in Savannah, about 300 down in our facility in Brunswick as well. We are the largest manufacturer in Georgia and the largest employer in Chatham County, and that we take a lot of pride in both of those points. So we've got almost 3,000 Gulfstream jets in service around the world today, many based here in the U.S., but also many based internationally as well. We currently have 4 business jets in production, our G280, G500, 600, and 650ER, and 3 of those business jets are in development. I'll handle those in just a few moments, but the G400, 700, and 800. And I will say all of our research and development is in Savannah. Our global headquarters, almost all of our manufacturing is Georgia. All of our research and development is hosted in Georgia as well. And then we have a world-class customer support organization. So what that means is when the aircraft needs to come in for service, Savannah, we have the largest purpose-built business jet aviation maintenance hangar in the world there. And then more business jet and general aviation maintenance is done on the Savannah airport than any other airport in the world. So things that Georgia should be very proud of. So, it's sort of to our workforce, discussion today. When you really think about what headwinds, that we're facing from an industry, everything that the folks who've spoken before me talked about, there's just a strong competition for technical skilled employees right now, all across workforce disciplines. And I think a lot of times people don't realize how so many other technical disciplines and trade skills fit within aviation. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But we're competing for the same folks from the construction industry to automotive industry to even the aviation industry as well. The state is doing a lot, as we have heard, and you all have helped position the state do so much from the K-12 system to the technical college system as well as the university system as Georgia. And those things have helped us get to position we are today for our success. But I think we're continuing to see the need for more capacity in these programs. Some of these programs very specialized to authorities greater than us in this room today. But even across all of the college and career academies that we see in the state now, to different Cte programs and specifically technical colleges in the university system, more capacity is just needed in many of these programs to develop the output that particularly we need in other industries that we're competing with as well. Now, when you take that into focus on aviation a little bit more, aviation itself is just extremely competitive. Aviation, aerospace is a huge part of the Georgia workforce and our economy here. And whether you're a small maintenance repair shop at a small airport in Georgia, or you're an airline or us at Gulfstream, we're all competing for those same employees in an industry that we all know from watching the news every night. Where there's a story about aviation that industry is growing and suffering because of lack of workforce, and we are part of that as well. And I think I spend a lot of times in the K-12 arena, and I think, there's a lot of misperceptions still today amongst students and parents about career and tech education programs. If you walk into a Gulfstream manufacturing facility or one of our service centers, they're very clean, they're bright, they're air conditioned, which we know in Georgia makes a big difference, especially down in Savannah in the summer. And I think there's still a lot of misperceptions there that it's a dirty industry, it's not a safe industry, but particularly our industry, as well as many others, are very safe today. And so I think some of those misperceptions that exist out there today are help driving some of our workforce headwinds. So when you think about, I looked before I came over here today. Today there are almost 600 open positions at Gulfstream. I'll be glad to take resumes back with me. But also, when you look at those 600 openings, about 60% of those are here in Georgia, and that's just open today. That doesn't even fulfill what we've hired this year, but also what we'll continue to hire through this year. But about almost 400 jobs, opening jobs in Georgia today, most of those in Savannah. So what are some of the high-demand careers that we're looking at right now? You'll hear the word in aviation, A&P mechanic or A&P technician, stands for airframe and power plant. If you're going to repair an aircraft, that's the FAA license that you have to have. And if you were to get any aviation industry in here today, they would tell you that is probably one of their top top need. So airframe and power plant technicians are those that are very difficult to find, but very competitive workplace. Very competitive workforce for those individuals. Engineers across multidisciplines, as I mentioned, all of our research and development is done here in Georgia at our Savannah campus, and just engineering's from all multiple disciplines. We're continuing to try those folks, because if you watch the news and high tech, in any industry today, engineering, more and more engineering is going into products that are developed, and we are just one of the industries that are competing for those. And then I'll talk a little about these technician positions. These are the ones that, I think that sometimes people have no idea you can go into aviation and do in the industry, from cabinet makers, cabinet finishers, interior installers, upholstery techs, aircraft assembly, actually manufacturing the aircraft, to avionics. Aircraft today are just flying computers. And so avionics plays a big part in that, and aircraft painters. So many of these multidiscipline, many different industries that, can help feed these types of careers. But I think there's just a lot of work that we're continuing to do to partner with our education partners and students and parents and community leaders to help students know that it's not just a pilot or an engineer to work in our industry, that if you have different skill set, that you can help fill any of these high demand positions that we're looking for every single day. So a little bit about what we're doing on the workforce development front. Partnering with public education, our K-12 partners, is very important and something we take a lot of pride in. There are over all of our local school districts within our communities, from Savannah, Chatham, Bryan, Effingham, Liberty, Bullock, Long, Liberty, McIntosh, and Glenn County. Very close to our Gulfstream facilities. We have a lot of partnerships that we're doing with them, from speakers bringing students out, funding these different programs. In the last 10 years, we've invested over $10 million just in public education to help this workforce pipeline. The technical college system in Georgia has been a great partner. We have Savannah Tech in our community, which their Aviation College and Dr. Love and Dean Talus just are phenomenal business and industry partners with us. And then the university system in Georgia as well, with Savannah State University, Georgia Southern, as well as Georgia Tech and UGA's College of Engineering, all playing a big part in helping us here within the state of Georgia. We also, almost 30% of our workforce today is made up of military veterans. I know that's another area that everyone goes after. We're very proud to participate in the Skills Bridge program, which is a great DoD program that partners with industry on to get transitioning veterans in the workforce. And then we're recruiting at military installations here in Georgia and all across the country, trying to get those veterans in. A lot of times folks think we're going after veterans just because aviation is so big in the military, which it is, but so many people talked about the skills and the work ethic, that our military bring that into the workforce as well. We've taken a new approach on some apprenticeship programs that I'll talk about a little bit more in just a moment. And then really, how do we support the work programs that are in place, from high school youth apprentice to co-op rotation programs and internships. So really diving it down to a little bit more on the K-12 standpoint, throughout our company, we've got almost 100 high school students that work at Gulfstream now. Almost 70 of those are in Georgia, here in Savannah. And these are students that we're paying. You heard from our folks, from the partners over at J.E. Dunn, we see a lot of the same success that they're seeing within our youth apprentice program, with students who are working in engineering labs, who are working out on the service center floor, learning how to repair aircraft. They're working in our cabinet shops, and just all throughout the company. So hopefully that they can have those aha moments and really see the bigger picture world of aviation. We give a lot of tours, a lot of school presentations, to really just how do we spark that interest, and really not only just beyond the student and the teacher, but also how do we influence the family member and the parents, because we know how much they drive this generation's thinking and what they're going to do and where they're going to go. And so we're trying to do a lot more now with parents to help drive that influence towards our industry. Something I'll take even maybe a little more pride than I was going to talk about is our student leadership program. A lot of folks today have talked about the soft skill piece, and this is a program that we've been doing in Chatham County. We're going into our 15th year here, where we invest in almost 500 high school students each year. And this program really focuses on work-ready, soft skill development, and career and industry. And we don't focus this program just on career and industry for Gulfstream. That's a part of it, but partnering with other industries in Chatham County as well. But also, we've got a very robust work-ready skills curriculum that students go through sophomore, junior, senior year in high school, they do mock interviews. They write their first resume. They learn how to problem solve, how they're going to manage that first financial paycheck. So that's what we're doing with 500 students a year in Chatham County. So hopefully when they come to the workforce, whether they come to Gulfstream or one of the other industries in Chatham County or the state, that they are ready to go and show up on time and know how to be a good, productive employee. A new program that we launched recently, actually in 2020, is our Aviation Manufacturing Service Program at Groves High School. So we partnered with Savannah Chatham Public Schools and Savannah Technical College to really bring in all the steps of a pathway through high school to a career at aviation at Gulfstream together, and launch this program now, building a brand new Groves High School that I'm excited to say will have an aviation manufacturing lab in that space. And what happens with this program is students freshman and sophomore year take state DOE aviation maintenance courses, and by the time they're junior students, they're dual enrolling in Savannah Technical College. And by the time they graduate high school, they've got 3 certificates. So they'll have a certificate in aircraft assembly, composites, and avionics. All 3 different certificates that can take them anywhere, ideally at Gulfstream, but any advanced manufacturer that those students will have a chance to earn through the state's dual enrollment program. And I think one of the most exciting things about this, we talked a little bit about transportation issues earlier. Through our partnership with Savannah Tech, those Savannah Tech instructors will teach those courses at Groves High School, so those students will never have to worry about a transportation boundary keeping them from dual enrolling in that program, something that we're very excited about, and that Savannah Chatham Public Schools and Savannah Technical College have just been great partners with. And lastly, I want to talk about the career CTE programs, and this is something we're spending a lot of time in, is talking to the different CTE programs, and helping them understand how those skills transfer. So if you're in an automotive program, that if you're interested in repairing cars, you may be interested in repairing aircraft. Or if you're interested in body work and painting a car, you may want to be an aircraft painter. Or if you're interested in construction, I hope my folks over here at J.E. Dunn won't get me on this one, but you may want to come work in our wood shop and build furniture for aircraft. But how do we partner with these different CTE programs and helping them show how variety of the skills that they can do within the certain programs that they're in? Then I mentioned, about our colleges and universities, our internship programs. In the summertime, we'll have between our co-ops and interns, we'll have over 300 of these students on our campus at Gulfstream working in multidiscipline areas. Many of these are coming from Georgia, some are from outside Georgia. I believe Georgia Southern University is our largest college university that we receive students from, but we're receiving students from all over the state and across the country. If they're on a co-op program, they're on a multi-year rotation where they come and work in 3 different functional areas, primarily within our engineering group. Our internships programs are in departments all across Gulfstream where they're working alongside professionals, they're contributing, doing meaningful work, and really helping Gulfstream be successful, but at the same time they're getting real work experience that they hopefully want to come back and apply for a position at Gulfstream and be ready to go. We're also doing that through research partnerships with several of our USG institutions in the state, and then we have several senior leaders at all levels of our company who are actively involved in our work with universities and colleges. And then our apprenticeships is a program that our partners over in HR started actually just last year. And man, this has grown, and we are so excited about this. It started out as a paint apprenticeship where students, or not particular students, any individual with absolutely zero experience could apply for a paint apprenticeship. I think we selected 4 or 5 out of that first group, and the retention with those has been outstanding. But really rotating them through our company, this is all training that we're doing ourselves on site, rotating them through different parts of the business, through the different parts of the process, but also understanding the business part of that as well. And then it's a 2-year apprenticeship. There are raises as they hit certain milestones within that. And by the time they finish, they're at a very qualified paint level position at Gulfstream, and we're able to train those students ourselves. just yesterday, we over at Savannah Tech, a partnership with them, we started industrial maintenance, where we found a gap, not only just building our aircraft and servicing them, but the folks that have to service our manufacturing equipment. And we actually just had a signing day with these students yesterday. Almost 10 students who will be part of our industrial maintenance. We will pay them to go to school at Savannah Tech. We will pay for their Savannah Tech tuition, and then through a 2-year program, they'll walk out of there with an associate's degree and ready to work at Gulfstream in level 2 maintenance repair, heavy industrial maintenance repaired position, something that we're really excited about and really going to use that model that through our technical college system in Georgia, and how can we replicate that across the country as well. Then other apprenticeship programs that we've started are upholstery and cabinet maker. Again, we're hiring students in. We're sending them, partnering with Savannah Technical College as our training partner here, sending them to school for the 8-week course. We're paying for that course for them, paying them to be there, and then they can come back and work within our furniture shops or our upholstery shops at above entry-level positions at that point through the experience they got of the apprenticeship, and then also through the formal training that they got. So really, I would say, the state of Georgia, we work in a lot of different states. We have 13 locations across the world, and many of those across the U.S. And we work with a lot of state legislatures. We work with a lot of K-12 institutions, a lot of colleges and technical colleges and universities. And I'll say Georgia's got a lot to be proud of. I think we're continuing to lead the way, and what we can do. We still have, our own challenges, but I think it's conversations, hearing from many different industry sectors and partners today like this that can help us continue to learn from each other, and appreciate you all being able to listen, wanting to listen to the industry, so we can continue to build that workforce here locally. And happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
There you go. The committee have any questions for Chris? Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
you know how I am about Gulfstream.
Well, you were just saying so much about God. No, I'm just.
No, they have wonderful programs that are throughout Chatham County, and I'm sure maybe Brunswick or some of the other areas as well. And it does show that the outreach at an earlier age helps a great deal. But they are very committed to our community, and I'm very proud of that. But I'm proud for another reason, and you always talk about your own kudos. My son is an engineer, a program director out at Gulfstream. Yeah. And I can tell you the recruitment that they do is just tremendous. And I don't know how they get into it, but how they deal again with those soft skills. And it seems like the overall theme that I've heard here today is, what do we do about the soft what do you call them, soft skills? And we used to call them social skills and all of that we learned from elementary school up, but that is not being taught. They are not being taught now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for affording me this opportunity.
Yes, ma'am. Number 20 is that Representative Wiedauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. I mentioned this morning, I'm not sure if you were in the room, but I actually toured Gulfstream last week.
Yep.
Y'all, if you ever get a chance, I know you guys are very welcoming, but you talk about not what you would think as a manufacturing job. You might as well be in a lab. It is, these facilities are quite immense. I don't think people realize how many buildings do you have?
Hundreds.
Yeah,
we're on almost every quadrant of the airport and growing beyond that as well.
Yeah, it takes quite a bit just to get from building to building.
Yes.
Toured a couple of different facilities over there, but thank you for what you guys do for the state of Georgia, obviously. And I think if I'm remembering my numbers right, I think the average salary over there is like $77,000 a year.
Yeah, our 2021 revenue in Georgia was over $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Representative Wiedauer, which plane did you choose for your?
I don't think we can say that yet, can we?
You didn't go down there to pick a plane. You just went for a tour. I'll be back for that. Yeah, yes, sir. No. have to have a little lighthearted. So let me just ask you this: do you have particular? I mean, do you have open positions in there, or are they all manner through the workforce? Really, that it's just you're experiencing the same things other people are.
Yeah, it's all through there, but it really is, if you were to look at our board today, you'd be amazed, I believe, at the number of entry-level positions they're really trying to, then going back with this outreach, but really goes back to those cabinet makers, upholstery, the A&P technicians,
Sure.
the aircraft assembler, those that are truly great entry-level positions that pay really well money entry-level, and your runway of a career path is very long.
And Chris, if I remember in the past from discussions with Gulfstream and hearing about it in my tenure down here, and it just in private business, you guys have been doing that type of community outreach for a long time. This is not post pandemic. This is not even post 2008 recessions. This is just the way your corporate culture kind of grew up down there, is it not?
Yeah, we state and the community has been so well to us, and we know we have a commitment to that community. I'll use the student leadership program as another example. Again, we're going into year 15 of that program with Savannah Chatham, and our youth apprentice program is almost over 15 years old. So really started out hiring 2 high school students many years ago, and today we're as a company almost 100. So
very, very well. Well, I thank you for coming, and you told us about the needs and told us a little bit about what you're doing. So we too are going to invite either you or someone from the organization back to help us as we get into phase next in the second meeting of how we can replicate that. We're going to ask you, I guess, to share a little bit of your secrets so that others can make use of it. Hopefully that will not hurt you in your competition for labor. But we're
always
try
happy
to,
to
that.
share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're just a few minutes early here, but we are going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're at 2:23. Let's come back at 2:35. We'll try to get just a few minutes before things. So we'll stand in recess till 2:35. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if we could go ahead and settle down, we'll get going with Mr. McCormick. So we were 2 minutes late, but we're still 2 minutes early, so we're in great shape. Welcome to the microphone, Matt McCormick. He's Senior Vice President with Reeves Young Construction. Yes, sir. Let me turn you on. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate the committee and their attention to this matter. It's something that certainly is very important to our company and the entire industry. Reeves Young, we are a general contractor. We're located in Sugar Hill. We have been in business for over 70 years now. In that time, we started off as a smaller, heavy civil contractor for many, many years. In the last decade, we have diversified into really several different business units. I run our water resources group, building water plants, wastewater plants, pump stations. We have a heavy civil group that does a lot of work for other commercial contractors like J.E. Dunn. We do public commercial work, courthouses, city halls, fire stations, police stations, that kind of thing. On the private side, we do hospitality, we build hotels, senior living, multifamily. And so really what that's really done as a company is allows us to create opportunities for people. We take a lot of pride in the amount of growth that we have had as a company. We're now pushing 500 employees, which is, when I start back in 2016, we were barely over 100. And so that has been significant employee growth and creation of opportunities. And that is really something our company takes a lot of pride in. And we're able to do that by creating a culture and create the company that it's a place that people want to come to work, and we're able to retain people. And so that's something that's very important to us. Up there you can see we have two different challenges as far as workforce development is creating those opportunities for craftsmen or obtaining those craftsmen and obtaining people from the on the office side as well. And so those are really two distinct challenges that we really have to work on in two different ways. In the last couple of years, we have a small satellite office in Nashville and an office in Greenville, but really over 80% of our opportunities and projects are in the Georgia market. So as far as resources go, I'm going to try not to overlap too much with what J.E. Dunn talked about earlier, but project management, pre-construction, traditional construction management or civil engineering positions is a lot of what we spend time trying to attract. But really, in addition to that, making sure that, hey, we have all the support services as well, accounting, marketing, business development, human resources, and all of those things are trades that people may not traditionally look to a construction company and think, hey, I can go into marketing over there, or hey, I'm looking to those kind of companies for accounting and positions of that nature. And yet I can tell you in marketing, we have 10 people over in our marketing department, over a dozen people in HR, all of those positions as well. So it's not, hey, if I want to go into accounting, I got to go work for Deloitte or one of these accounting firms, and making people aware of those opportunities. In addition to that, the trades, superintendents and operators, pipe layers, and things of that nature. And those positions, it's really getting more and more challenging as we try to do that. The superintendent, the requirements of that position are changing, right? All of those guys now they all now have iPads and are expected to be more technical than they were in the past, and having some of those computer skills. And so that is becoming an increasingly difficult position to fill. And then these skilled positions, the challenges associated with filling those roles as well. How do we find those people? We do it a bunch of different ways. Until recently, we didn't have this. We now have internal recruiters who are actively doing that every day. We use external recruiters. The internship and co-op program is a very big part of what we do. Ideally, for the office positions, we would love to get kids at 18, 19 years old, and those are the positions that we promote from within and can take that from project engineer, assistant project manager, senior project manager, and take them all the way up through that. And that's something that really, that internship program, we can't stress enough the value of that, and letting these young kids learn, hey, take us for a test drive while we take them for a test drive, and help them really understand what it's about. I can tell you, many years ago at Georgia Tech, I was a co-op student, and that was probably the best experience I had ever had. And in that co-op experience, way back when, it was learning, hey, the first job was not for me, right? The first thing was a position, and while I certainly enjoyed working, it was not what I was cut out for. The second, and it led me to the career I'm in construction today, and so that is something that is really just very, very valuable. We participate in career fairs at the universities, at the high schools. We're active with the local high schools around our office. Word of mouth. So this year, we have a referral bonus program in our company, and so we have paid out over $100,000 in referral bonuses to employees within our own company to get them to bring people to come to work for Reeves Young. And I would tell you, without fail, that is the best. The people that are coming here that have been vouched for by another employee, those are going to more than likely be the people that are going to stay with us for a long time. And I can tell you that giving out a couple $1,000s to one of our employees to bring someone over is going to be that beats the heck out of these third-party recruiters and the fees that are associated with those. And so it's something that's been very successful for us. And then in addition to that, social media, needless to say, we are trying to, that is an evolving market for us, and how to reach out to the people that we need to be reaching out to connect them with Reeves Young. As I mentioned before, the various universities that we go out to, in-state, Georgia Southern and KSU have very specific construction management programs. We go to Georgia Tech and we go to Georgia. I'll tell you, and I say this as a yellow jacket, they do not have specific construction management programs, and so for us, I got my degree in civil engineering a long time ago. We have to filter through a lot of those resumes to get there. At Southern and at KSU, where they have where you go into that classroom and there are 30 kids that want a job in construction. That 30 out of 30 want a job in construction. That is very easy for us to look through those resumes and talk to those kids, and every one of them is very likely a potential fit. So that is something that, as I have some of these other logos up here, I won't name them, that we're having to go out of state to get some of that talent is something of interest. If Georgia State had a true construction management program, if Georgia Tech had a very specific construction management program, and even Georgia, that our flagship universities do not necessarily have those specific construction management programs. I think Zach put up the slide earlier today of how many people can have careers in construction. 97% or something like that was the pie chart I saw earlier today. I think if those programs were offered at more of these universities, I think you would have a better luck retaining those people in state. It's almost like trying to keep your elite football players in state. Here we are having to go out of state to get recruits, and so that's something that I think will be helpful. Some of the challenges we face, some of these things have been talked about earlier today. Supply and demand, I can tell you right now, the federal government has poured in an enormous amount of money, and so we are not lacking in projects to chase. I mean, that is not at all the case, right? We are, I can speak for the public side, where we used to see 4, 5, 6 bidders, we are now seeing 1, 2, 3 bidders. So it's not a matter of having opportunity. It's a matter of, do we have the people to go chase those opportunities? And so to do that, it's a matter of having those the skilled workforce. We're competing against, quite frankly, as far as the wages go, there are less skilled positions that are paying comparable wages right now. I won't name the convenience store, the largest gas station in the country that you go and see, and they're paying $20+ an hour to go and work at these places. And I heard earlier $17 an hour for a construction laborer, and that's hard to compete with. And so those are things that are challenging. The aging workforce. It was stated earlier today that it takes 10 years to become a superintendent. That's challenging. Some of our best superintendents are now 40+, 50+ years old, and as those guys age out or gals age out, to replace them is going to be really, really very challenging. I mentioned here overcoming the stigma, and I guess what I was really referring to is that coming out of high school, not all kids need to go and get a 4-year education. And you can make over $100,000 a year as a superintendent, well over $100,000 a year as a superintendent. And so those are career paths. That is a career path to come up through the field and work your way through that. That is, those guys or gals that come up through construction can not have a college education and make more money than someone with a 4-year degree might ever make, depending on what that specific major is, if you will. How does this impact the state? We see, as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing fewer bidders. We're seeing projects consistently coming in over budget due to increased labor, increased subcontractors, material costs are more. All of this is related to the lack of skilled employees in our industry. What's that leading to? I can tell you a project 2 weeks ago that came in 50% over budget. The project's now getting kicked, and now they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do next. That was for a wastewater plant up in North Georgia that just happened. And so these are things that projects are getting delayed, and essentially taxpayers end up paying the premium. And so really, it's a problem that really affects all of us. As far as solutions go, and I know we're going to talk about that more, one of the things we do, I talked about our internship program earlier. And so, yes, we're paying competitive wages, anywhere between $18, $20 an hour to these interns to come in and work for the summer. A lot of times as we're trying to attract them from outside of Gwinnett County or wherever it is the opportunities are, we're doing stipends for housing and things of that nature. And so I don't know if there's a way to somehow incentivize either one, the student, or two, the companies to make these internships happen. Should it be a requirement of a 4-year degree to have an internship? I think those things would really put people in a position to, when they get out with that degree, they're on the right track of working in a position that they have already tried out. Hopefully they figured out this is what they want to do. So when they get out of school, they are in a position that they fits their capabilities and their passion. Questions? Pardon me? Which one?
I think she wants you to back up at least one screen, and with that, we'll Representative Bentley. Is that where you wanted to be?
Well, I just want to write it down.
Oh, just wanted to write it down. All right. I thought your light was flashing. I didn't know if you had a question. Or is that,
So-
Representative Park?
Yes.
I still don't have the numbers yet. Representative Park has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McCormick, thank you for your presentation. I had a few questions, especially because I'm not that familiar with the construction industry. But first, given the diversity of your portfolio, do your workforce needs essentially remain constant, or does it go up and down, kind of depending on the booms and busts of the industry?
So, as far as the booms and busts of the industry, we hope that what we've done as a company is we are not dedicated to just residential work or to just, transportation or any one of those things. We do a number of different things, and so we really like to think that if there is a valley in one area, hey, we can take these same employees and apply them in other places within our company. So as far as that goes, I think the need is consistently there. A track hoe operator there's going to be a need for a track hoe operator somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I'd say the same thing for our managers. Hey, our guys managing a courthouse. Well, if there's not a courthouse to be built, there's a hotel or there is something else that can be built that we can hopefully transfer those skills to the right projects.
Thank you. So skills, for the most part, are relatively transferable to...
Within construction, I'd say largely that's the case.
Okay. Two, I know a lot of the focus of this committee has been on workforce shortage related needs, but would you be able to speak or share some information on supply chain related issues? Have those somewhat been resolved, or are there still shortages in materials and other building supplies that have been constraining your operations?
No, supply chain is still certainly an issue. We are still seeing significant lead times for materials, whether it be pipe or electrical. I can tell you, I'm doing a job right now up in North Georgia, and the concrete supply, while it's not necessarily materials, it's truck drivers. So it's guys to get in to drive those cement trucks to all these projects, and so that's the limitation on for that particular material, which is concrete's obviously very important for many parts of the industry.
And then the last question, because I think this also bears on potential revenue for the state as well, but are you able to estimate the potential loss of revenue to your company based on either workforce-related shortages or constraints in the supply chain, and some of the trickle-out economic impacts that would have for the state?
I got to think about that for a minute. So our company is going to increase our revenue from 21, quite frankly, coming out of the pandemic, to 22. And so if anything, it seems like if there was any kind of pause in the construction industry during the pandemic, it's catching up right now. Right now, well, there's all these municipalities that we're seeing on the public side. They're spending some of that money that they didn't spend in 20 and 21. And so in that regard, I can tell you that our company, and I say many other companies, are turning down work. Just you can't chase the work because of the lack of the employees.
Thank you.
Yeah. If I can follow up on that, so you think some of the demand that you're seeing here is kind of pent up demand, for lack of a better term, projects that would have been bid in the midst or toward the end of COVID, but it just didn't make any sense to do that because they couldn't be built right then, so they didn't bid them. I mean, if you bid a project for, was in city government, you're not going to bid a project for me in January or July of 2020, even if we can do it through an online bid process, not knowing when you can start it, right? Because you can't control your costs going into the project. So, if you're sitting there in the middle of the pandemic in July of 2020, it doesn't do any good to let a project or to bid a project to get it ready, because you're not going to be able to put real numbers around it.
I don't think
so. Some of this is sort of that pent up demand, but other parts of it is money that's been injected in from the federal level to the cities to do some of these infrastructure bill.
Sure. So it's both of those things. Early on in the pandemic, heck, there was all these procurement departments that were at the house, right? I mean, right. We do work with many counties and cities within the state, and many of their procurement departments were just getting backed up. And then in addition to that, all the money that's come in from the federal government, both of those things combined is what's led to a boom in the bidding in the bidding industry right now.
How much did you see just in from management down to rank and file that this didn't come back after the pandemic?
So,
I mean, at your firm or anecdotally, across the industry, was there just a lot of that? If there was somebody that was in their late 50s and they stayed at home for a year and they decided they're going to finish out their work life in a different area?
Construction, and we didn't stop working. So I can tell you right now that our construction, our field, they did not miss one day of work. Now, we had situations where, we had I can count on one hand the number of situations where we had to pause a job for, a couple of days here or there due to exposures. But largely the construction industry in Georgia did not shut down.
Well, I know it didn't shut down, but I just saw projects. Matter of factly, they weren't shut down because the government required them to shut down. They were shut down because
couldn't get people.
We couldn't get people to come out and work for that.
Yeah.
So I was just curious. I mean, if you had any people that just changed up and stayed away from that. Chairman Perkle had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Park, he skirted around the issue, but Mark did, but they're going to pass along those inflationary effects from the supply chain issue to their customer.
That's
I
right.
mean, that's who's going to pay, ultimately, who's going to pay. I told the chairman a while ago I got to leave early in just a bit. I've been waiting on a part on one of my tractors for 17 months.
That's right.
And he called me this morning and said, "Hey, it's in if you could come by today." So I'm going to come by today.
He's afraid somebody else is going to pick it up.
That's right. So one of the more interesting things that we've talked about. So it all the thrust of the conversations we've had is the lack of available workforce, and it's that 38% number that in the gray area that we talked about early on this morning in labor force participation rate, where those people are, and you're trying to capture those through this pretty cool little referral program. So question one is, where are those people coming from? I know you said that we've had good results because if a friend recommends, they actually show up and they want to make sure it's that peer pressure, making sure, hey, I referred you. I'm not going to tell you I got $3,000 because I got you on board and you stayed 90 days, but I don't want to mess my friend up. So it used to be, as a farmer, people love to hire kids off the farm because, they're hard workers. They've driven a tractor since they were 6 and the responsibility and stuff like that. And it's that same type. So you're trying to capture that missing 38% somewhere. The question one is, where are they coming from? And question two, we want to capture that worker while they are still in high school, so that we can train them. They never fall into, I don't know if you call it the gray area or black hole or whatever they fall into, where they're not participating in the labor force.
Right.
So you're trying to catch them before they go there, and also afterwards through this referral program.
That's right.
So
there's a couple of things there. I promise you, there are resumes that I would pass over, but if I see that same resume and the guy in the office next to me says, hey, he may not have the relevant work experience, but by gosh, I'm telling you, he's going to show up on time and he has the aptitude and the attitude and he has all of those things. I'm vouching for this guy. That is somebody that we want to get. And, we have 491 people working for us if all of them have one person, right, that they can refer, that they're willing to vouch for, then that is a way for us to increase the number of talented people that we have in our company. And so, again, that referral bonus that we're giving compared to the 25% or whatever it is you got to pay for a third-party recruiter, that is money well spent many times over.
You do it all day, every day if you could.
That's absolutely. And as far as what you said, getting them at the high school level, yeah, if there's you got a kid in the neighborhood who you see out there mowing lawns every day, who's hustling, and man, that's the guy I want to get. I want that kid that is looking to earn his keep. And so getting those guys or gals and finding them, that's the right way to do it.
Yep, that was good.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to continuing to engage you as we move forward.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. We'll move on in the agenda. Elaine Stock is the CEO of ServiceMaster Brands. It's going to also be joined by Holly Stewart she's a multi-unit franchisee, I assume, of ServiceMaster Brands, and also with two men in a truck.
Right.
Did I get that right? Are you a multi-unit franchisee of 2 men in a truck?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. It's on different lines there. Welcome to you both, and we look forward to.
No, that's fine. I don't have any. Thank you for having us.
You bet.
We appreciate it. I'm Elaine Stock. I am the CEO of ServiceMaster Brands, which I'm proud to say as of a year ago is now based in Georgia. We moved the headquarters from Memphis, and we're now based up in Sandy Springs. And for those of you who don't know ServiceMaster Brands is about a $3.5 billion in sales company that is the leading franchisor of residential and commercial needs-based services. So we have a number of different franchises. 2 Men in a Truck is one of our franchise brands. We also have ServiceMaster Restore, ServiceMaster Clean, Merry Maids, Aftermath Services, Indoor Sciences, and ServiceMaster Recovery Management. So a number of different brands under the heading of ServiceMaster Brands. We have about 2,100 franchisees and nearly 3,000 locations across the country. And in total, employ over 60,000 team members at the front line through our franchisees. So it's a lot of folks doing a lot of different stuff for families and businesses across the country. So that's who we are. And ServiceMaster Brands is a 92-year-old company, and we have a long history of integrity and customer service and developing people. That's always been a part of our core values. It's been something that our franchisees have also focused on in terms of the opportunities to create real growth opportunities for frontline team members and help them to progress in their careers. So in terms of our presence in Georgia, we have in our headquarters in Sandy Springs, we have 109 team members in our franchise support center, and then we have 71 franchise locations across the state. So that accounts for about 2,000 team members across all of Georgia in certainly every major metro and many of the smaller ones as well, our franchisees. And these franchisees are independently owned and operated by franchise owners like Holly, and so we thought it'd be great for you to hear directly from one of them. And so I'm pleased to present Holly Stewart from our 2 Men in a Truck franchise. Take it away, Holly.
Thank you, Elaine. So 2 Men in a Truck, we're more than just 2 men in one truck, right? We're nationally a national full-service moving company that offers customers comprehensive home and business relocation, packing, unpacking, and junk removal services. We're training and customer service, like Elaine said, are our top priority, and we pride ourselves on offering professionally trained movers and top-of-the-line equipment. Whether moving down the street, across the country, or into a new home or business building, 2 Men in a Truck's mission is to move people forward. Georgia is home to 18 2 Men in a Truck franchises who own and operate 22 locations across the state, employing over 950 team members spread across 15 counties. So that makes the average about 43 per location. And out of over 100 registered moving companies across the state of Georgia, 2 Men in a Truck is responsible for approximately 40% of the moves each year. So a little bit about me. I actually started my professional career in market research, but I decided I wanted to fulfill my lifelong dream to be a teacher. So I signed up to go back to school for a master's degree in teaching certificate. While I was getting that in order, I applied to be a customer service representative at 2 Men in a Truck, so I wouldn't deplete all of my savings. I figured it was an easy job that I could quickly learn, and then I could shut it off and focus on school on the nights and weekends. But the universe had totally other plans. They had just lost a general manager, and in my management experience, they chose to offer me a job. So I called the university and I asked them to defer my enrollment. I knew nothing about moving or even trucks, so I figured I would take a few months to get my hands around it, and then I'd go back to school. But instead, I ended up working my way up for a multi-unit franchisee in holding every position in the business, from being on the trucks, on the phones, to managing accounting and compliance, to ultimately becoming the COO of his business, running 10 Atlanta area 2 Men in a Truck stores, growing his revenue over 100%. At that point, I started to buy him out, and I have now been an owner for 7 years. And I tell you what, I never went back to school, but I can confidently tell you that I have learned more at 2 Men in a Truck than I would have learned in the classroom, and I actually find myself teaching every day. And my story isn't unique to the 2 Men in a Truck brand. I found out just last week that out of the total of 239 franchise owners, 124 rose through the ranks to become owners just like me. That's 52%. So moving people forward isn't just a tagline someone in marketing office down in Sandy Springs came up with. It is, for 2 Men in a Truck, it really is a way of business. Today I have 5 locations in DeKalb, Cobb, and Paulding County and employ approximately 250 team members, including movers, drivers, office staff, and managers. The positions that I find most difficult to fill are entry-level managers and customer service reps, but the biggest hole we consistently have across all of the Georgia franchisees is driving, and we compete against all other industries for that talent. When interviewing for any position, the top things we look for, like it sounds like everybody else, is the willingness to learn, the willingness to work, good attitude, and if they've got a little bit of drive or gumption, that's great. Experience helps, but ultimately we can teach the job skills required at 2 Men in a Truck: lifting, driving, and selling. The challenge is the majority of our jobs require open schedules with lots of flexibility. They don't work standard 8 to 5 shifts in moving. They have difficult work schedules. They have different work schedules every day with very little notice. They find out their report time the evening before, and they don't know what time they'll get off until midway through their shift, and everyone has different shifts. One of the biggest recruiting and retention challenges I face is transportation. The lack of transportation options forced me to actually close one of my dispatch offices up in Ackworth. The options for my office, when considering correct zoning and getting a parking lot big enough in my budget, just didn't lend themselves to places where my employees could report to work. But even running out of better suited offices for commuting as I do today, transportation is still one of the biggest recruiting and retention challenges for my team that I face. So here on your screen, I've got Marcus. Marcus has been with us since 2016, and he had to get up before 4 a.m. every morning for a 7:45 report time so he could take 3 buses and or trains to get to his workstation. We unfortunately just lost him pretty recently because he took a job closer to his home. Then there's Jackson. Jackson's actually a mover, and he's been with us since we opened our last dispatch office about 3 years ago. And he used to ride his bike over 3 miles to work both ways, rain or snow. In Georgia, not much snow, but and until he was able to save up enough money to buy a car for his family. So his fiance now can drop him off at work every morning. And actually, I just found out he was just promoted to a coveted position of our interstate driver, so we're really proud to see him excelling. And then last, there's Robert. He started for us about 2 or 3 years ago as a customer service representative, and he has now worked his way up to be a team lead. He has a 9-month-old baby who needed special formula, as if having a baby isn't expensive enough. So I loaned him a company car because he couldn't afford to spend so much on paycheck to paycheck on Ubers just to travel to and from work. And actually, last time I stopped by the office, he proudly showed off his new car and wanted to tell me about his new apartment that he secured closer to work with the money that he was able to save while he was using my car on loan. These are some of the success stories where the team members were willing to go the extra mile to overcome these transportation obstacles they face, or in certain situations I've been able to help. But there are so many more wonderful team members that I was really sad to see go, or candidates that I know would be a great fit for our team, but they didn't accept the position just because they didn't have reliable transportation to work. It actually took me over 6 months one time to find and retain a customer service representative just because of that. And as I'm sure you can imagine, moving isn't something we can do remotely. I'd like to show you a quick video of another one of our success stories. This is one of my lead interstate drivers who initially struggled with transportation issues, but fought to successfully overcome them. Maybe. Ooh. I don't know how to make it full screen. No. There. Where's the sound? The red button.
My name is James Lawrence. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
James is one of those people in our franchise that you just count on him for everything.
Overall, he's just a good dude, hard worker.
He's very consistent in everything that he does.
He really is a leader amongst his peers.
James is great. He really is.
My time at 2 Men in the Truck, I started in the system in 2007, which makes me here, 13, 14 years. I love the fact that they're family-based location that I work at, and I just enjoy moving.
The main thing with James is integrity. James will always do the right thing when no one's looking. He just will.
He embodies the 2 Men in a Truck brand, and he really helps us shine as a franchise. And he's a mentor with the other guys, and they can look up and they can see how to behave, how to act.
He's a hard worker. He's not to put the customers at ease. He do his job very well. I've been here about 8 years. He's been here longer than me, and I learned a lot from him since I've been here. His number one quality, I would say strength. Physically, mentally, to do this job as long as he's done, that quality, I think, outshines most of them.
He's just a good, genuine guy. He's sincere about everything that he does. He want to make sure that everybody doing everything the right way.
He is always looking for a way to please the customer in every job. Beyond what we're supposed to do. Yes, he does what we're supposed to do, but he puts in a little extra on every move.
My mom passed away, and so we had to move some of her belongings from South Carolina back here, and James helped me with that. He wanted to make sure that I knew that he was thinking about me, he had been praying about me. Heroes don't wear capes. They just take care of their community, they look out for other people. They're a friend when you need a friend, and he was my move hero that day.
He loves to give back. That's his number one thing, is giving back. Anytime we have something going on here, whether it be a food drive or, if we go and serve meals to our community, during the holidays or anything like that, James is always the first person to volunteer, for whatever it is that we have going on.
Well, my wife's we always been together as a big stickler in donating and giving back, as far as like coaching youth football and feeding the homeless and things of that nature. And then we teach our kids growing up that if you're well off and you're able to give back to the community, we take money and stuff and go buy food and just donate it to some drives to help the people that's less fortunate.
We strangers come to someone's home, and the best way for them to understand us is being personal with them. So he always try to be personal with them and just let them know that, hey, we're here to just make sure, I know moving is stressful, but we're here to take the stress away from you. At the end of the day, we're not building a spaceship, but we also trying to do good customer service, and that's something that he provides on his moves.
So I'm excited to be able to share stories about team members like James Lawrence with you. And I love watching them give back to the community and take an active role in,
Hey guys.
Take an active role in moving people forward as well. I've often heard James offer to give other team members ride home or pick them up on the way to work the next day. I'm proud to be able to teach our employees life skills and watch them grow first and foremost as individuals, but obviously that benefits me as they grow as employees as well. Whether the employee is with us until they can buy their own franchise, if they're here for a lifetime career following the promotion promotion path we have available are for just a moment in time in their journey. We want to pour into them just as much as we can. I bring in bankers to talk to them about setting up bank accounts. I hold classes about budgeting. We have financial planners come in and discuss our IRA plans and how to save for retirement. You can't be a mover forever. I sit down with every new hire and discuss the importance of how you present yourself in basic hygiene, from tucking in your shirt to wearing deodorant. I was devastated when I realized we had a number of employees that didn't know how to read, something I definitely take for granted. So we set up a program to help a handful of movers learn how to read. And because it's just important to me, I offer them volunteer opportunities and teach them the importance to give back to the community. Now, these are just a few examples of the life skills training we provide. I often tell people that hard work has gotten me where I am. I gave the company 100%, and in turn, it's given me 110 back. And I try to create that culture and opportunities at my office, and I know it's something that the other 2 Men in a Trucks do as well. But unfortunately, sometimes we're unable to do this due to transportation issues our team members face. And I know this isn't a me problem or a 2 Men in a Truck problem. There are so many small businesses in Georgia looking to recruit and retain staff. I was really honored when Elaine asked me to speak here today because I can speak directly to these issues. I deal with them personally every day. Talent shortage isn't just a big business problem. I have seen firsthand that the government incentives work when incentivizing job seekers to pursue employment. Those results were staggering. But to help us overcome staffing challenges now, I recommend incentivizing retention. And I believe there is a significant opportunity for the state to do so through transportation, as we see job seekers, employees, and employers all struggle to overcome this. I'm not one like these guys who has a great solution and a bunch of plans in place, but one of the ways maybe that you could do this is providing employers or employees with X amount of rideshare passes after 90 days continuous employment if a minimum average hours is worked, for example, 20 hours a week. Or possibly providing some sort of assistance program to buy a used car if they submit an application completed by their employer. But again, after that continuous employment for at least 90 days. These are just 2 suggestions of ways to help us battle today's staffing challenges. I will continue to teach my team life skills and provide a pathway for advancement. I ask that you look at creating some sort of program to incentivize retention through transportation. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any questions? Any questions? I'm going to pose one for later. I mean, homework, if I might give it away, since you volunteered. No good deed goes unpunished.
That's fine.
I think the interesting thing with your, it intrigues me with your thought there, and you're going to find pushback on that is, why should you take state resources and, give transportation to in your particular place when you don't do it in other places. So I'm going to ask you to kind of think more around that, and then from my standpoint here, I want to look at what the other side is, because I kind of look at stuff on the zero-sum game. So if not but for doing that, then that person doesn't keep the job and gets into a position where they then require other types of assistance for them or their family, right? Mm-hmm. So help us find that, because I think that's one of the flaws in the federal program. When people may be on safety net programs, I don't know what, I don't want to use a name for it that's at all, disingenuous or disrespectful, but when they're on, some programs that help them, I'm aware that if they improve and maybe get promoted in a position, they have to turn it, or they get more hours, they turn it down because they lose more benefit than they gain with it. We can't do anything about that in Georgia for the federal programs, but we can certainly take what you're saying in terms of a workforce idea and try to figure out how to keep somebody in the workforce and allow them to grow out of the need for safety net programs. So if you wouldn't mind, give that some thought. It seems like you've given a lot of business ideas some thought over your time at 2 Men in a Truck, and so maybe you can help us with that engage us as we move forward in meeting number 2.
I'd be happy to.
That'd be awesome. Any other questions? Any other questions for either of either for us, Elaine or Holly? I don't see any. We now have one. Representative Park.
So for the most part, when it comes to the service industry, the challenge is more infrastructure, whether it's transportation, housing, as opposed to barriers to education and training. Would that be kind of an accurate assessment, at least for some of the industries within Service Brand, including Two Trucks?
For mine, yes, because we can teach them those skills. It's really a matter of the soft skills that have come up and up many times. It's you need to have the want to work, the drive to work, need to know how to show up on time, how to do those things. It's crazy to me how many times that we have employed somebody, ask them to show up, say, and they don't show up regularly, and then they're flabbergasted they're being terminated. You know, even though we have a handbook and we go over that and things like that. So those soft skills we could definitely use some help on, but for like specific job training, like I said, we could probably teach that.
Yeah, and I think that's true across the brands of Service Master. The places, though, where there are people that fall through the cracks are in things like what Holly talked about, ones who can't read, who may be coming out of an incarceration background, and how we help them to transition. I think the education aspects associated with those would be very helpful.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you both. All.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're finishing up a little earlier. I have what I have on the agenda here is allowing members of the committees, if you had any thoughts you wish to share. I mean, it's not a requirement, but you've been here all day and you've heard a number of things. If there's anything you would like to share at this point with and for the committee as we get prepared to move forward, be happy to hear that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for calling this hearing. I'll keep my remarks fairly short, but clearly Georgia is a great place to live, work, and play. A lot of opportunity, a lot of promise, and it's really striking to see how many similar challenges continue to exist. And so I look forward to the next committee hearing, certainly when it comes to certain recommendations that we may be able to work on together going as we move forward. But you know, as a general matter, especially when it comes to trying to move good public policy forward, I appreciate all the folks who came and testified to help us better understand the problem so that we can be clear-eyed with the challenges that we face, and hopefully we can continue to work together to move good public policy forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you for this wonderful meeting and all of those that were in attendance. There's one thing that I am concerned about. I mentioned it earlier. I have this little grasping thing in my voice, so please excuse that. And that is, I am concerned about our young people that have been incarcerated and they're getting out of jail and are the system. And how can we attract them to become more concerned about getting a job in our community? How can we help them get a job? How can we help them to trust? Again, it's a lack of trust among them also because they feel that people are not going to help him. So, Mr. Chairman, if we could think about those kinds of things as well to see how we can extend some kind of help to them as well. I do think that one of the things that we've heard so much about again is the social issues. That's very important. And I'm aging myself, Mr. Chairman, but we were taught from first grade on or in the household about those kinds of things. And I think we just have forgotten about it. And Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. The phones, these cell phones have taken a lot away from those kinds of relationships. I'm looking forward to our next session, and hopefully some of these issues can also be addressed. But we have great things happening here in the state of Georgia. At times I feel from hearing what I heard today that we, and I'm not talking about this committee, Georgians don't know enough about what is going on to move the state forward. Thank you.
Anything further? I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank all the people that testified or provided us information. I guess we weren't testifying. We didn't have a piece of legislation before us, and we won't, at least for the next two meetings. I suspect if we come up with ideas, those would be, introduced and discussed when we get back in January. This is an information and ideas a meeting. I think the lady for also mentioned this off, and I didn't mean to. I tend to, when I sit here for a minute, you use the props around me. I don't want to vilify that piece of hardware that we all have in our pocket that is a cell phone. My intent, nor parents, because I was one and still am one, but I was one that allowed my children to have phones at that point in time. It was more so the things that we need to reinforce to our young people and each other, quite frankly, that not everything one sees in social media is true real life, and I think it does. I think it is impactful on the perceptions people have of the world around them, and it's real world is where we're sitting today, not in that little box. But I again thank you to everyone that came. The idea of this was to hear the opportunities that, quite frankly, exist in Georgia that aren't being filled. When we hear people that don't have an opportunity, there's a disconnect somewhere. So the next meeting will be in late September. We're looking on a date and a location for that, and we'll get out in front of that in the next week or so here. And as we build an agenda, and with that, the agenda, the prime focus of that meeting will be what we're doing in our university system, our technical college system, as Representative Park mentioned at the Maxwell School over in Gwinnett, something that they're doing special. I think the Marietta City School is doing special. There's a couple of other situations that are being done that are specific toward pointing folks toward particular careers or opportunities. We may drill down further based on what we heard today. The gentleman's construction education that's in our K-12 system. So we're gonna look into that and what's being done today, and then we'll come back for our third meeting and see if we can expand on that. I think as we do this, if you have an idea, if you know of something special that's going on, please get with Brittany and let her make her aware of that, and we'll talk about getting folks on the agenda. I think it is also important that we actually focus on ideas of where we can repurpose people and current financial resources. Anybody can leave this room and say, if we had this much more money, or if we had an infinite amount of resources, we of course we could fix problems, issues, and do all this. So I think it's important. There may be areas that demand additional financial resources or demand the repurposing of individual human capital, which we'd certainly look at. But let's challenge ourselves to look at a repurposing and being more efficient with that the state is currently spending and leveraging our public side. I want to thank everybody from the public that has come here to talk to us today. Often say that there are 11 million Georgians, and some of the best ideas come from outside this building, not inside it. So I appreciate everybody providing this from our start. If there are no further business for the subcommittee this afternoon, we'll stand adjourned without objection. I see none. We are adjourned.